You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, we have our second edition of the weekend of the Cabral House Call. This is where I answer your questions that come in throughout the weeks, and always exciting, always new questions coming in. And when possible, I do try to combine the ones that are the most similar. So if you ever don't hear your name read, it's simply because you had a similar question to someone else, and I just combine the two. Because people do really have a lot of the same symptoms, a lot of the same issues. Believe it or not, we always like to think that our issues are completely unique, that no one suffers from the same exact thing. And I do agree that no one suffers in the same exact way as another person, but believe it or not, our symptoms are not always that unique, even if you don't have anyone immediately around you experiencing those same things. No matter how rare it is, I've most likely seen it in my practice before, or potentially even experienced it myself with all the health issues that I had to deal with. I believe that makes me a good source, or hopefully someone that can at least research what you are looking for. So please do never feel afraid of sending in whatever your questions might be. And always, I'm happy to read it anonymously if you would like. So let's get into today's first question. Our first question today is from Bev. This comes up actually quite often in my Boston practice. And her question is this: I have excessive burping, almost like hiccups. What is causing this? Okay, so I see this quite often. A lot of times with digestive-based issues. And when you go to a gastroenterologist, you have all sorts of different GI workups. No one can find anything wrong because they're looking for maybe specific types of bacteria. They're putting you on Prilosec, whatever it might be. Here's the issue. You can't take Prilosec or a stomach acid reducer for your entire life. You shouldn't take it at all because what happens is it's masking the actual symptoms of what's going on in your stomach. That means it's allowing that muscle at the bottom of your esophagus to then stay open, and what little stomach you have is being stopped now by the stomach acid blocker, but the enzymes are coming up into the esophagus, and that can actually eat away at the esophageal tissue that was never supposed to get exposed to those enzymes, which then can lead to Barrett's esophageal cancer. This is well documented. The issue is that a lot of GI doctors don't have any alternatives to help people. So that's the issue, and that's what I really take issue with, is people are on Prilosec or acid blockers for a decade, 2 decades. It's completely insane. It means literally that you cannot break down and digest protein properly, which leads to a whole host of other issues, and also poor mineral absorption because you need acid to actually break down food. So here's the issue. With this burping, I see it all the time in my practice, is there is a poor digestive system in place. So basically, since their food is allowed to stay in your stomach longer, what happens is that food then starts to ferment. Literally, the proteins, the carbohydrates, they start to ferment. And when that happens, the food actually starts to give off gas from the bacteria. And that gas starts to push the stomach against your actual body. You feel that, and that's the bloating. And then the gas starts to come back up. And that gas coming back up leads to those burps, those little tiny burps. Sometimes they're big burps, but sometimes they literally just happen over and over and over. I had one woman in my practice who I was able to help. She had this for 5 years, never went away, burping just all the time. During our session, she must have burped maybe 10 times per minute. It was amazing. Just kept coming up. Within 3 weeks, it was gone. And what happens is a lot of time, there's bacteria in that stomach that's actually coming up because of 2 reasons. One is poor stomach acid that isn't allowed to knock it down. But also, the small intestine, there's this thing called the gastric valve where your stomach empties into that small intestine. That's supposed to be a one-way street. But bacteria can actually start to come back up into the stomach as well, and that can also be poor functioning in the small intestine, which allows colon-based bacteria to come into that. So we have to look at small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, we have to look at candida overgrowth, we have to look at H. pylori, but the bottom line is we need to re-strengthen that digestive system.
either using like a ginger tea during meals or hydrochloric acid, like an HCl type supplement. We usually use a bile-based supplement along with that. We're using certain specific products to remove the H. pylori in the stomach, like mastica gum and berberine and a lot of other great ones. So that is the reason for that burping, and I've seen it, I can't even tell you how many times. We also work on proper food combining. It's not that so simple that I could answer in 3 minutes, but that is the reason. So you're going to work with either a natural health practitioner that can walk you through the protocol to be able to do this properly. I feel it would be improper of me to simply give you a protocol within a minute without actually, seeing what other issues there might be going on, because you don't want to recommend HCl if you're taking an acid blocker. That doesn't make sense. So you can work with a nutritionist who really knows their stuff in terms of natural health. You could work with a functional medicine doctor, but do feel free to contact us if you'd like additional information. But you have to start with the bacteria, you have to start with the poor food combining and the poor hydrochloric acid to eliminate that bacteria and not allow it to grow in the first place. So Bev, hopefully that answers your question, and always feel free to do a follow-up if needed. All right, Alicia is up next. Alicia is asking, what are your healthy toothpaste recommendations? So this is a great question, and she actually had a two-part question, and that's about oil pulling. Oil pulling for your health will be in a future episode, and I will tell you what oils to use and which ones not to use, because a lot of the popular ones are not that great right now that people are using. So what healthy toothpaste do I recommend? Well, so I've gone through this for myself and also for my children. We are absolutely fluoride free. Fluoride is a hot topic for whether you should use it or not. I'll tell you this, if you're using your toothpaste, fine, but certainly do not use fluorinated water. That is it's completely insane, to be honest with you. Fluoride is a known poison. It wipes out the gut bacteria that you have in your body. It also, when built up in excess, is a poison. So it doesn't make sense. It certainly doesn't make sense that they sell water with fluoride in it, like at a CVS or a pharmacy type place. If you want to put it on your teeth, that's your prerogative. That's your choice. If that's your belief, okay, fine. We certainly do not believe in it. I've read all the research. I've looked at many, many tooth decay research studies. I've read Weston Price's book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. He was a dentist that traveled the world and looked at teeth cavitations. So I would certainly, you can do your homework, or you can simply listen to what I'm saying today. I'm going to make some recommendations. Now, the nice thing is you can literally make your own homemade toothpaste really, really simply. Now, a lot of people won't choose to do this, but I can at least give you the synopsis of it. You can use something just called calcium powder. That's very easy to use. You can use baking soda as part of that mixture. Usually it's about 5 parts or so calcium powder, 2 parts baking soda. You can do about 3 parts xylitol. You don't have to use xylitol. It's a specific special type of sugar alcohol, and it comes from birch trees. It's used to give it a little bit of a sweeter flavor, so it's not as bitter. And it's also been shown to help with teeth cavities as well, keep them moist, teeth cavitations. Next, you're going to add about 3 to 5 parts coconut oil, and the coconut oil will give it a little bit of texture. So as you're mixing it up, you can do that. And you can store all of this, by the way, in a glass jar so that you don't, or even your own tube. You can make it as well. And the last part is adding a little bit of essential oils. Now, people can add tea tree. They can add neem, which is an Ayurvedic one that they use for thousands of years. You can then add some mint, some cinnamon, some orange, some trace minerals as well. That's a very simple way to make it. You're just really adding calcium, baking soda, a little xylitol, and then a little bit of the coconut oil, a little bit of essential oil to give it some flavor. Very, very simple. Or if you're not going to do that, some brands that you can buy that I've researched. So I don't recommend the Tom's of Maine. A lot of people like Tom's products. I'm not against them, but the issue is this, that they still have fluoride in them. And again, I'm not recommending that right now. So there's a brand called Kiss My Face. That is that's an actual brand. They make olive oil soaps, and they have some decent products. Now, all of these aren't going to be completely pure. Like this one contains the sodium lauryl, which is a kind of like a cleansing agent. It makes that lather. So we do try to stay away from that whenever possible. Dr. Ken's makes a decent brand. I want you to look these up for yourself, decide what is right for you. The Himalayan is a great product. We use a lot of their things as well. They make a toothpaste that's Ayurvedic based. Let's see, another one is Ayurmur, which is an Ayurmur Ayurvedic herbal toothpaste. That can be a decent one. We'll try to put some of these in the show notes as well. Tea Tree Therapy Toothpaste. So that one is a decent one as well. It contains titanium dioxide. So again, it's tough to get them totally pure. Desert Essence Natural Tea Tree Oil Toothpaste is another decent one. It does contain that sodium lauryl sulfate, which is that kind of that cleansing agent. Makes it feel like more of a toothpaste. That's why people like it. And then there's the company Jason or Jason, however you want to pronounce it. That's a really good one as well. It's fluoride free.
It's very similar to other toothpaste, and it's a nice transition one. So do look up the Jason-based ones. I think it's Citrus Mint, which is a really nice one. So it's a white tube with a green label. Start with that one if you'd like, and it contains grapefruit seed extract. It's sulfate-free, and it's fluoride-free. We'll use that one sometimes if we're not. We don't make a lot of our own as well, just simply because of time. We're like most people, but I have done it before, and I'm not against it. So the Jason one is a nice one to start with, or Jason, and then you can look at the Kiss My Face brand, but again, it has that sodium lauryl, which I'm just not a fan of, and some of the tea tree ones are excellent as well. So hopefully that answers your question, and it gives you a starting place to do your research and homework. All right, Raymond is up next. Raymond is asking, do you have any tips for substituting bread at lunch? So really great question. And what I would say is this, is that really bread is not a health food for you. It really is not. It contains yeast. It contains a lot of leavening agents, preservatives. And the other issue is this, is that you're usually having meat on that sandwich, right? So grains and meat, and even if you add cheese to it, they're terrible food combiners. Meaning like the bread is supposed to move through your stomach quickly. It basically dissolves into sugar. And the meat, though, slows it up, which means you can get fermentation in the stomach, you can get bloating, you can get gas, you can get burping, you can get a lot of digestive-based issues. So it's very important, if you can, to try to cut out the bread. Easier way to transition, at least, is to start with wraps. So it has no yeast in it. They're typically made from corn. You can get, of course, GMO corn. You can get it made from coconut-based grains. You can get it made from other things. Now, that's an easier way to transition. So even if you're at a store, you could just get a wrap instead of the bread. You're already doing better. But now, another tip beyond that is, can you take what would typically be in the sandwich? You can do vegan-based, vegetarian-based, or meat-based. And can you then put that on top of a salad, or maybe on top of some sweet potatoes or root vegetables, or maybe on top of some rice? That's going to be a better step up. So then you can have your veggies, you can have maybe a little bit of a gluten-free starch, and then you can have a vegan, vegetarian, or meat-based protein as well. So, and now I'll tell you, this used to be very difficult 10 years ago, but now you can actually go to a Whole Foods, a natural food store, and a lot of supermarkets, and they have a prepared food section that usually made that day nice and fresh, and you can make your own lunches. And so you don't even have to bring it from home, and you can just go there and get that made. Plus, a lot of these places that do sandwiches, they also do now quinoa bowls or rice bowls. And so you add your protein and your veggies to that instead of it having be between two slices of bread, which again, it's not going to help with weight loss. It's not going to help with your health. If you cut that out alone, it's going to improve your digestion. You're going to be doing so much better. So Raymond, hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully I helped today answer some of those questions that we've gotten in throughout the week. And I want to thank everyone for another great week of the Cabral Concept. Love bringing you about 10-minute episodes every day, answering all of your questions and everything I hope that will make you live a little healthier lifestyle. Thanks again for tuning in. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.